are
We are
we are going
live
live.
and in action. Are we live in action?
We are.
Happy Memorial Day, everybody. Happy Memorial Day. Just want to say thank you. I just want to, have remembrance for all of our soldiers that have lost their lives and just anybody that has lost their lives that we're close to that means something to us. Just remembrance of them today. And, I have I am newer in the real estate space, so I don't have any people that are in the real estate sector that have passed away that have been like close to me. So, but other than that, I bet Mark has. I bet Mark has some mentors and stuff that have passed away over the years, and they've meant something to him.
Yes, 100%. And even a cousin that was in the military, and I have several friends and cousins that's in the military. So thank you guys all so much. Anybody that's listening for military, being out there for serving, and it's people don't realize because we really haven't. I mean, yes, we've had a couple of wars, Iraq and stuff, but at least it's not on our home soil, and what our history and our country's gone through to be where we're at. So thank you guys so much, and thank you. Hopefully everybody's having a great holiday weekend. Usually Memorial Day, we look at it also as the beginning of summer. In a lot of places in Florida, we look at it as it's usually a project weekend of working on homes because it's a little warm out there. But no, there's a lot of things. A lot of people tend to take the boats and go over to Bahamas because this time of year the water's flat, so it's not so bad. It's about a 45, well, actually 3 hours, about a 3 hour boat run over. So, anyways,
That sounds pleasant.
glad. What's that?
That sounds very pleasant. I could do that.
Yeah, a lot of fishing. It's beautiful out there, and so. But yeah, I'm excited. Again, thank you guys all for coming. So welcome, and we're going to talk seller financing, creative seller financing. We're going to talk about subject to agreement for deed, land contract, installment sales, anything you guys want, development, buyers, how to, the big thing is you guys all want to know how to find these deals. That's probably the biggest thing, and that's where everybody tends to come across, and that is the art of, creative seller financing, doing it. So thank you guys for coming, Matt.
Awesome. Well, yeah, if you are over on Facebook, and we have people over here on Zoom as well. I am getting ready to drop the link for you to join us over on Zoom if you would like. But in the meantime, go ahead and let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm over here in Cincinnati. You got Mark down there in Florida. Where are you? I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio. I know we got a couple people maybe from here. We got tons of people from Florida all the time in here. Where are you from? I want to know. That way we can help you. We got Oregon. Oregon, okay. That's out on the West Coast. We got what is that? 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock over there right now. So awesome. Awesome. Go ahead and drop them in the chat. Southern California. Awesome. We got Fort Lauderdale with Billy Smith. That's not too far from Mark over there.
I'm in Boca Raton.
Okay, we got Southern California over with Greg on Facebook. I want to drop this chat in here for you guys to join. So feel free to join over on Zoom. And guys, we love to see faces. We love to see faces. Turn your cameras on. Don't be shy. Networking is huge. For us to know your name, we can maybe send you deals one day. Just, just get out there, share some love. There we go. We start seeing some pictures. There we go. Awesome. Orlando, Florida. See, I told you, Florida comes in hot in here sometimes. Dallas, we got Sarasota area, Manatee County, Florida, and Michael. Dang. See, they're everywhere. All right. I'm done with the areas. But let us know where you're tuning in from.
Florida is a great, Florida now is starting to become a good market. It's cooled off. Sellers can't sell. It's a buyer's market. And that's where I love seller financing. So this is the great opportunity where we're in right now. Now, yes, you have to run some numbers, and sometimes the numbers don't shake out, but the sellers are more motivated. And that's where these strategies come in. That's where I started doing these strategies years ago because of the market condition that we're in now. I remember back in 1997, interest rates were where they're at, about 7.5%. And homes are sitting, actually, homes are sitting a little bit longer because here we're still, some areas are still having a housing shortage, but some of these areas back then, homes are sitting for like 4 or 6 months, but we're starting to see some of that. Actually, I'm starting to see some homes sit that long now, in certain market conditions. So I love it. It's good for opportunities. And so anybody's, let's bring some questions.
All right, it's question day. So if you guys have questions, Mark has experience. Mark has lots of experience, like $500 million worth of seller financing deals experience. And I'm pretty sure, wait, what's today's date? It's the what is it? The
26.
26th. So does that mean you hit your 32 years or 30 years?
Yeah, I did. 30 years. Isn't that crazy? 30
Whoa.
years.
What date was that? Just a couple days ago, right?
It was like around the third week of May when I got into it, full time, pretty much. I started out doing real estate banking up in the Washington, D.C. area. That was when but even though I did my first deal when I was 19, but really in 95, that's when I really went into it. And, I did my first deal. I had no clue what I was doing. It was a seller financing deal. But I started getting into it. I did a traditional in the beginning in 95. I started, did the rents, the flips, and then evolved over time of getting into doing the creative stuff. So I started really getting into creative stuff, like I said, around 97-ish, 96. But in 95, I got in doing the fix and flips, what we call the burr rentals, started surrounding myself like other investors. My background was real estate banking. I had 107 loan officers that was working for me around that time as well. After I probably about 90s, 97 also, I started out doing real estate banking. I was a loan officer for about a year and a half, and then I got into it, and a lot of my clients were investors. So done all the different strategies. I first started out with the sandwich lease option strategy. That's when I really started out doing that type of seller financing strategy. And then I got into doing agreement for deeds, land contracts. So all these are seller financing strategies underneath a lot of times. And a lot of times people think, oh, seller financing is just straight seller financing, but seller financing is the main, and then they're all subs underneath it. And so each one of these, it took me a couple years to learn all these different strategies. But nowadays, since I know them all, what I do is I treat them like a tool belt. So depending on what the seller's needs are, that will determine on what strategy I use. Like for example, right now everybody knows subject to, sub two, if you will. For me, I would never pitch a subject to a seller that's not financial distress. Like if you're talking to a realtor, hey, Mr. Seller, keep the mortgage in your name and transfer the deed over to me. They're going to look at you like you're crazy. So you have to come up with a different strategy, another alternative seller financing strategy. And that's kind of, I'll go down that path. So there's different needs, and depending on what the seller's needs are, that will determine on the seller's strategy. So, and it really comes down to, and I say this all the time, that when you're doing seller financing and when you're doing seller financing strategies, the key to the whole thing, remember this is the art, this is the key to it. When you're doing seller financing strategies, you have to think of it like a marriage. You're in a long-term contract with the seller, 5 year, 7 year, 10 year, 30 year, whatever it may be. So when you're talking to the seller and you're getting to know the seller, think of it when you went on that date, when you met your significant other, your spouse, your boyfriend, whatever it may be. The first time you're just getting to know each other. So you have to treat it the same way. They want to get to know you and you want to get to know them. So you want to always treat it in that way of just straight seller financing. I'm sorry about that. Something popped up on my screen. So you want to treat it getting to know each other. I want to get to know them, and I want them to get to know me. I want to know everything. I want to know the dog's name. I want to know the children's name. So think of it that way. You want to get to know each other. And the reason why they're going to do the business is because they like you and they trust you and you're going to do what you're going to say. That's the number one reason. So, and then 80% of my phone call is always building rapport with them the first time. And then we kind of get into the details of the numbers. So just remember that. That's the art. And then if you understand why they're selling, and you can be creative enough to solve their problem to be able to get the low down payment as possible. That's what I like doing. I like to get low to zero down as much as possible, less than 5%. And then I like to usually sell it to an exit strategy, like a lease option, um, contract for deed, any of those type of strategies. And I like to use my end buyer's capital to buy the deal and have some money left over, and then make that passive income. It's all about the passive income coming in. And I look for a minimum of $500 a month passive income coming in. Some I get a little bit more. Sure, I've had a deal one time where I was only getting $48 passive income, but I had $109,000 of equity in it. So that you have to kind of look at it. But typically, I'm always looking for a minimum of $500 a month passive income coming in. And yeah, that's my strategy. And but go ahead, Matt. I'm sure you got some
Awesome.
questions or people asking,
We
jumping in
got
with
lots of
questions.
questions. Lots of
Bring them
questions.
on.
So we got people posting them in the chat, but I would love for people to actually voice them out themselves. That way we have a dialogue here. It's a little bit easier instead of having to dissect it. So there is a little thing called the react button down here at the bottom. Go ahead and click on that and you'll see a raise the hand feature. So whenever you have a question, please do that and we can have you in order and we'll answer your questions. So go ahead and I'm going to ask you if no one does it, I'll read them off, but go ahead and unmute yourself and raise your hand if you have a question. And we got Greg over here saying, I bought my first house on creative finance with zero down with a contract for deed in Minnesota. He's 20 years old.
Congratulations, man. Love it. You can do it. There you go. Now he's on a path, just kind of keep doing it. Yeah, and the beauty of it is, like, especially at his age, all you have to do is like 3 or 5 of these a year. That's all you have to do. And then within like 5 years, he'll be able to just sit back and be on cruise control and just keep adding, rinse and repeat. That's really what it comes down to, and just build that passive income coming in.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations, Greg. I love it. Nice job.
Awesome. All right. No one raised their hand. No one's going to ask their questions. So let's go ahead and do Liz real quick. So Liz has pre foreclosure, pre probates, etc. And they're on a hot list. How do you differentiate versus competitors?
Right. Repeat that one more time. I'm sorry.
How do you differentiate versus competitors when it comes to pre foreclosures, pre probates, etc.?
Okay.
There's supposed to be
Your
a hot list.
competitors, like, how do you determine a hot list? Um, to be frank, I'm not a fan of those because you are always battling, and then the sellers are usually not as motivated until 3 days before they're getting kicked out on the street. That's what I found. You can do it 100%, absolutely, but you got to have your systems in place. You got to have your people, and you have to know quickly. So you have to, again, goes back to building rapport. Just be the friend of the seller and just understand that they're not motivated. That's why they're in that situation. They think they're in denial, most of those people, and they always wait until the last minute until like the sheriff or the auction date, and that's when they have to go. So then at that point, that's when you have to go quick. You have to be able to jump on the phone, talk to sellers. I'm sorry, jump on the phone, talk to a lender. And most of the time when you talk to a lender, you're going to get to somebody who's like, oh, it's too late. You got to call the attorney. You're going to have to keep calling back that lender until you get that right person that's been with that company for about 10 years, and they're going to connect you to the right person. And then that person will be able to help you and figure out how to be able to stop that. But typically, you're going to have to do a cash sale on that particular one if you do it that way. Line up some capital partners. It's you can possibly do seller financing, but again, you're going to have to bring that most of the time. You're going to have to bring that loan current or a big chunk of cash to be able to put down. My strategy, as I like to buy properties with very little money down to no money down, so that's why I like finding properties that, yes, maybe are behind a few months, but yes, you can do the foreclosures and get out there, but you're going to have a lot of competition. But you're going to have to really be a friend consulting to that person, build a rapport, and keep in mind that they're not going to move on it until it's too late, and then you're going to have to jump through hoops. So you can do it, but just have some hard money stuff lined up. Um, do a lot of resources. You may have to do some short sales, but it's a different type of strategy than what we're talking here on the creative seller financing stuff. But you definitely can do it. I'm not a fan of them. You just usually it's going to take you a little while to kind of get there. Just like any strategy, it takes you a little bit to kind of understand that strategy. But hopefully that helped. Um, but just build a rapport. When you have a connection with that seller, just keep in mind they're not going to be ready to move, but when they are ready to move, they're going to call you. So you have to be able to move quickly. As long as you build that good rapport with them up front and treat it like a marriage.
Awesome. Awesome. So follow up on that one will be: is it better to get the leads like if it's a fresh list from the court, or should I be using a software like Deal Machine?
You can both are good. Technically, the court system is a little bit better because they take a little bit to get into the system if you can do that. Um, but again, most of these sellers are going to take their time, so it really doesn't matter how fresh it is. It's just going to be these people drag their feet when it comes to pre-foreclosures or foreclosures. They're just going to drag their feet. Um, but you can get some deals. I mean, if you can get them from the courthouse, back in the day, we used to do that. You go directly to get those from the courthouse and just go down there and pull them out. A lot of times you can get the list, but again, it's just you're going to have to keep calling and calling, and these a lot of times these people are in denial. Um, I also like tax. Yeah, I like violations. We're actually just on my Zoom call earlier. An HOA, somebody was behind $34,000 on the HOA, but she's current. The HOA is going to foreclose on them. So we're in our coaching call tonight. We're talking about it, and you know what what I would probably do is I would go buy that HOA lien and probably buy it at 50%, and then you could technically foreclose on it, even though the balance is 34. You could probably buy that, and I've done that before. Buy it an HOA lien and kind of worked out something with the seller. So there is a lot of different ways of doing it. But yes, you can definitely go to the list. That would be a lot better. But again, they're if they're you're going to find that they're probably not going to move quickly. So you could use Deal Machine. It'll be cheaper for you and a lot easier. But you're just going to have to build a rapport because you're going to be in competition with other people calling the same list. So what makes you stand apart, different from your competition, is building a rapport with them and them trusting you and liking you.
Perfect. And then, Kelvin, can you go ahead and are you able to unmute yourself and turn your camera on and talk about your deal real quick? Unmute yourself, maybe. You don't have to turn your camera on. Just come on and talk about it.
Yeah, hello.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So I explained to Mark in a message a few days ago, kind of the situation. Um, so the house that I have is a current long term rental. I get about 2,700 a month on it, but I'm thinking of doing some seller finance with it. Like, just listening to some of the stuff that you guys are saying, and I was trying to see if that could potentially work and like what would be the best scenario or route to take in a situation like that.
You have a mortgage on it, I'm assuming, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What state is it in?
It's in Florida. It's in Plant City.
Okay. Yeah. I would do a lease option all day long in Florida. Um, that's what I would do. So with the people in there now that would they be able to buy it or like put a down payment? Do you know?
The people that were in there, I had to recently let them go because I had to fix a mold situation, and I'm waiting on insurance. So I mean, it's been rented out for 5 years, and this is the first time that something like this has happened. So I recently let them out of their obligation just because I have to get it fixed. I don't want to hold them tight. So
Sure. What do you think?
currently
What
vacant.
Yeah. I would definitely do a lease option in Florida. Whatever your value, whatever the property's worth, what's the property worth roughly, do you think, right now,
Uh,
if you're going to sell it, put on the MLS?
um, so the house needs to be updated as far as like renovation and stuff. But like if you're talking about just on a like
The
Zillow
as
or
is.
like
Yeah, the as
RPR
is. Yeah, the as is value. Like, what do you think if you're going to sell it as is?
as is, probably like 440, 450.
Okay. So what I would do is I would add whatever that is, I would add 10%
Mm-hmm.
as a lease option. So I would sell that at 495 with probably a 4 or 5 year term on it. That's what I would do. And then I would have them try to get like a $20,000, $25,000 what we call option fee. Don't call it down payment because there's a difference um, because if you call it a down payment, technically you have to refund it, but an option fee is non-refundable. So just make sure you have an understanding of that. And I don't give any rent credits because if you give rent credits, then they have what's called equitable interest, and then sometimes it'd be harder. So I would just do it as a lease option, sell
Okay.
it at 495 as is, and I'll try to find somebody that's a little handy, that's part of the process, and let them fix it up over time. Now, 495 is what's it seems like it's on the higher, is it on the higher end for that community?
Uh, yeah, kind of, yeah. It's probably one of the bigger houses, that has some land on it. It's probably about 2 acres, 2,700 square feet. So it is one of the kind of the bigger properties in the area as far as square footage.
And what can you rent it for?
I was renting it for 2,700 a month before this happened with the mold situation.
What do you think now the rents are going for in that area?
I mean, so the good thing about the Plant City area is that it's a lot of land. So in the it has parking that is as far as like truck drivers. So you get like a good demographic of somebody who needs it. So um as far as like parking and stuff like that. So I mean it would probably stay the same. If not, if I get it fixed up, I mean it could be higher. Really, it's really something
You
that you could
do you want to fix it up?
should be
Do you
higher.
want to put all that money? Do you want to fix it up and put all that money into it, or you just want
No,
to
I
do it
no,
as
I
is?
don't. I don't.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's what I would do. I would rent it, sell to that, because I would keep it under the 500. So and then I would probably, because when you do as a lease option, they're going to own it. You can usually go about $200 over. So I would probably go like $2,900, and as a lease option type of situation where they can become homeowners on it. That's probably what I would do, and I'll try to shoot for like $20,000 down. Or I shouldn't say down, option fee on it, and let them be responsible for maintenance and repairs, and then make sure you have your agreements correct on that as well. That's probably what I would do all day long, and then you don't have to worry about it. And then in Florida, if something happens, they don't make payments, you can get them out in about 30 to 45 days, as long as your paperwork is correct. If the paperwork's not correct, it could take you much longer.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that should be easy. I have my license and stuff as well. So yeah, that should be easy
Just
to
be
do.
careful. Don't call it a down payment. Make sure it's a non-refundable. And if you give them, like I don't like to give credit towards the payments, because then that's what's called equitable interest. But what I normally do is at the end of it, I will work with them, and then whatever the option fee is down, whatever the option fee, I'll apply that towards the purchase price, as long as they make their payments on time. But that's what I would do all day long.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
It's a good deal. Good luck with it.
Yeah.
And I
Thank you,
would and
man.
I would look for somebody. I would look for somebody like a truck driver and somebody that's handy. And what I would do is go into Facebook Marketplace, apartments.com, Zillow, Craigslist, um, go into some truck groups and post it in there. Because truckers, they like buying in those places, and it doesn't matter where they live a lot of times. And okay,
Oh man, perfect. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
cool. Thanks, Calvin.
Awesome. Hamida, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, so I just had a quick question. It's something you said earlier caught my attention when you said that when you do the creative financing and when you do the seller financing, you focus on trying to get at least cash flowing at least 500 a month from each property. It sounded like you bought the property with seller financing from I guess, the owner of the property, but you did it with, you mentioned an end buyer, which sounded like maybe you had a private lender that technically bought the property and you're paying them back. And then you're also paying you're doing the seller financing. Is that how you got the float, or did I misunderstand that strategy?
I don't float it at all. I'm using the seller's property. I just do a long due diligence period. So I usually go under like the inspection period. So I tell them like, hey, at least I'm going to buy the property. There's no rush. You don't have to rush out. So we can close on it or whatever. You can move out in like 2 months or whatever, and that gives me time, because I tell them exactly what I'm doing. I go out there. I put my tenant buyer in the property. They have good income. I underwrite. very stringent, and if anything ever happens with my end buyer and they stop paying, I step up to the plate and make the payments. I'm very good at underwriting. It doesn't happen that much, but it does happen now and then. But if it does, I turn around and put somebody else back into the property, and my end buyer is putting enough down, and I have money in reserve. So if that does happen, I have that capital there. So let's say, for example, so I go under contract with the seller, go out for my end buyer. I had them drive by the prop. First, I screen them, make sure they qualify, how many people live in the property, make sure they can afford it. And then, oftentimes I'll just use, they'll put a deposit down and I use that with the seller. So I just use the seller's capital. I lock my contract up for a couple $100, and then I go out and just find my end buyer. I've done a couple. There's some videos I can I did one not too long ago. I broke down where I locked up for $100 and I made 50,000 on that one. Wasn't a big spread on it, but it was still a nice one. Typically on those deals, my spreads are anywhere about 150-ish to 200 normally on a spread. But that was a smaller deal. That's why that spread was like that. And I was only cash flowing $300 a month on that particular one. But now I always look for $500 a month. So I negotiate a really down payment. Let's say, for example, $10,000 to get into the deal with the seller. Closing costs maybe 12,000. Then I go out and try to get my buyer, and they will put down $20,000, $30,000, and I use that capital, and I usually put money in my pocket up front. But typically, that money up front, I usually make sure I have money in reserves. Depending on the state, I'll have 3 months to 6 months reserves, just in case if anything happens.
Gotcha, gotcha. Where can we find, how do we access that video that you did on that strategy?
Yeah, I'll post it afterwards on there, in there. So, yeah, I'll get it for you. It's a video how I break the numbers down. Actually, if you go to Seller Financing Strategies website, I think it's on there. Bear with me. Let me look. Seller Financing Strategies.
Okay.
Yeah, bear with me here. Seller Financing Strategies. I'm pretty sure it's in there somewhere. Whoops. .com. Well, I look for it. Do you have any more questions? I'll let you know in a minute because it's going to take me a second to find it.
That's all for
So,
me. Thank you.
okay. I'll keep looking, and then I'll just kind of point it out afterwards. Matt, you got some more
Yep.
questions?
Yeah, we're good. Real quick, I just want to throw out there, Mark does have a mentorship to help you take your real estate knowledge and experience to the next level. Whether you are beginning or whether you have 10 to 15 to 100 units, Mark can help you start or scale your portfolio anytime. Let me put a link on here. Just schedule a call. We'll see if it's a good fit for you. It isn't a good fit for everybody, and we let you know if it is or not. We want to make sure that you can be successful in this real estate as well. So let me put this link here. Schedule call here. It's a free call. No sales on this call. It's just to see if it's a good fit for you. It'll be scheduled with Reese. We just ask that you don't waste his time because Reese is a very valuable guy and he has lots of valuable time. His time is very valuable, and we wants to. You gotta make sure you protect it. So there we go. I put it there in the Facebook. There's on Facebook. So there we go. All right. Next up, we got a question from Liz. What you got, Liz?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. Well, happy Memorial Day to everyone. And thank you, Mark, for taking our questions on a holiday. So I appreciate that. So I was the one who asked about the pre-foreclosure, pre-probate. Yeah, it seems like it's very competitive out there, especially if you don't get it from the court. I totally agree with you on that. Just curious, I know you do a lot more subject to that you do probably cash deals, and I don't blame you for it. My question is, are you purchasing PPL? And do you also have a VA doing cold calling to help you out gain those, qualified leads?
Sure. So I have about 600 bird dogs. Now my VAs do some stuff. I'm going to throw this real quick, that link in that video here that I break down. There's that video. I just threw it in the Zoom chat there. So what I do is I have 600 bird dogs. For example, like trashmen, they know the neighborhood. They send me deals. Landscapers, snowplow removals, pools cleaners, Uber drivers, mailmen used to. Mailmen, something must have happened because I don't get them that much anymore. I think they all got in kind of a little trouble. But where I get my home run deals are like hospice nurses. So I have a whole system. So I get about 600 people that refer me deals. I did what was it? 14 deals with one guy. I don't know if he worked for Medicaid and Medicare, but he would drive seniors to doctors' offices and pharmacies. So he made because I'm not a realtor, so I can pay realtor. I can pay. I'm sorry, I'm not a realtor, so I can pay referral fees. So he made like an extra $38,000 that year on all those deals that we end up doing. So that's one way. I do have a VA that goes onto Zillow and or Redfin in Facebook Marketplace, and they reach out to for sale by owners. And we always like to send a message. What we like to do is, hey, would you be willing to rent the house? Would you be willing to rent the property to us for a few years, and then we'll close on it. We'll take care of the maintenance and repairs. If they say yes, then I know they're open to some type of creative seller financing strategy. I don't like to go into it and say, hey, would you be open to seller financing or this or that? I like to dumb it down, keep it simple, and then go into it and talk to them and build a rapport. If they say yes, then I know. But the other thing, 70% of my deals, this is key, 70% come from follow-up where they originally say no. So you got to follow up, especially if you're on the phone and you built a rapport with them. So you want to follow up. I had a deal that I pitched like 18 months and it came back later on. But I have a CRM that does a nice, good follow-ups. So I have a good CRM that does that stuff for me. But if you don't have a CRM, just make sure you use a calendar, have a good system because 70% of those come from follow-up. So hopefully that helped.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I heard about the CRM. Yeah, I heard about Go High Level. I think that's a good description because you can do so much automated stuff, especially with the AI agents. That's another
Mhm.
thing once you have
Yep.
implemented your business already too. Agents.
Yeah. People in our group get go high level. That's in that part of the that's in the community of the private community. But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. All right. Huzaifa,
Yes, sir. I'm here.
did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Yes.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I just had a quick question on that. So I just want to know what examples of zero interest deals that Mark has probably worked on, and how hard they are to negotiate.
Zero interest or zero down deals or zero interest.
Zero interest. Yeah.
For me, I'm not so much worried about the interest rates. It's more about the payment.
Okay.
Long as my numbers work. I don't worry about the interest rate so much. As long as I can get my cash flow of $500 a month I'm looking for and back the numbers in, I'm okay paying a little bit higher because even with the IRS, they're gonna have to still claim it because of because they can't do zero interest. But you can do it. I mean, but I've done zero interest. I always go into it, how much money do you need monthly? And then I back my numbers in that way and make sure
Okay.
my numbers work. So I had one where I bought 13 units with zero down, and and that one came actually from a hospice nurse, zero down. And I'm like, how much money do you need? And she goes, I need 2,500. I negotiated her down to $2,200. And when we closed on that deal, we were cash flowing $4,600 a month immediately because she was worried about the payment. So if I went into an interest rate, I probably wouldn't have been cash flowing as much. Now we're cash flowing on that deal almost close to $7,000 because we got stabilized and we got everything in there fixed. Um,
Um,
so I always back my numbers in and ask them what they need for payment. So that's probably the best way if you're trying to negotiate zero down interest.
okay, got it. Have you done any with zero interest though?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And what do
Oh yeah.
those typically look like? What would convince a seller to do zero interest? I'm kind of particularly interested in
I,
that
I've done
strategy.
I've done stuff where I had no payments for like 6 months to a year before with
Okay.
no. There's different ways of structuring it. It really comes down to listening to the seller and really what the seller's needs are.
Okay.
And try to solve their problem. How much, like again, how much capital do they need? Do they need that capital? I'm paying a little bit more because, and I go to the seller, like let's say for example, in today's market, where do you live?
Orlando.
Orlando. Okay.
Yeah.
Your homes are sitting there right now. What do you think the average sales price for a home up there right now is?
About 420-ish, somewhere around there, 425.
And how long are they taking to sell?
Depends on the area, but I would say about a month to 2 months.
Wow. I thought Orlando was probably almost like 3 to 4 months now. Okay.
Some area, yeah, if not priced right, yeah, they'll go to about 2 3 months, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So they list it for 420. When a retail buyer comes in, what do you think realistically they're going to offer on that property if it's on the MLS for 420 in this market?
5 by 400, 390,
Okay.
400, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably go 380 me in this market
Right.
because there's so many. Do you have a lot of them listed on the market right now?
It's not as bad. I mean, it just again depends on the area, but for the
Mhm.
most part, it's still pretty, competitive. Prices haven't really fallen down that much. The days on market have definitely increased, but prices haven't dropped as much.
So you say you offer 390, okay?
Right.
All right. And then on that, what do you think the real estate commission is going to be?
6%, yeah, or
Okay.
5%, 5 to 6%, yeah, pretty much.
Right. So 390, let's say at 6%, that's another say $24,000.
Right.
Okay. And typically when they come through and they do an inspections and they're trying to get a loan or whatever, do you think there's going to be some repairs that need to be done
Most likely,
after
yeah.
the inspection? And
Yeah.
how much do you think usually that goes back and forth? What do you think? A couple $1,000s?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
For
Let's
minor
say
stuff here and
2,000.
there. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And let's say, what do you think a mortgage payment that they're paying on that property is right now?
Obviously, vary on the interest rate and the balance, but let's say 2,200, 2,500, something like that.
All right, let's say 20, let's say 2,400. Let's go.
Okay.
And in this market, I think in your area is probably 3 months. So there's an extra $7,200. So what
Got
I
it.
do is I add all that up. Okay, so 7,200. Let's take the difference. 390. Okay,
Right.
from we were saying 420. Okay, that's $30,000. Okay, that because I'm willing to give them exactly the price that they want as long as they're giving me terms. And I don't want to go crazy, so that's $30,000 there. Okay,
Okay.
the commission is 24,000, $2,000 for any conditions, and then say 7,200 for the holding cost. That's an extra almost $64,000 that the
Mhm.
seller's going to get for selling it on terms like that. But what I do, I'll take it a step further. See, this is where I don't worry about interest rate because I use the interest rate as my advantage to get that property through seller financing. This
Okay.
is how I do mine. You're familiar with an amortization schedule?
Yeah.
Have you looked at amortization schedule before?
Yes.
Okay. So I did one not too long ago, like at a 4% interest rate
Okay.
for 4.5, but my numbers worked and I was cash flowing on this deal about $700 a month. I did an amortization schedule. They're okay doing seller financing, but they wanted it paid off in 3 years, and I was giving them top dollar.
Okay.
And there was no way I was going to do that because I want to make sure there's equity. So I
Right.
did an amortization schedule, sent it over to them, and said, "Hey, pull this document up." And it shows on the beginning, this is what I'm paying, blah blah, the monthly payments. Go down to line 120. How much money would you have collected during that time period? And I think it was like 89,000. And then
Wow.
what's that payoff balance over to the right? And I don't remember what it was exactly. I think it might have been like 100 and I don't know, $40,000.
Right.
I said, add those numbers up in between. Over 10 years, they're making an extra $129,000
Wow.
because they become the bank and they're making an extra $129,000. They're like, oh, we'll do this for 10 years instead of 3 years. So I
I
use
get you
that to
saying.
my advantage to get a
Right.
longer term. Do you follow me?
Got it. Got it. And do you
I
amortize that
use
30 years typically, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I amortized it at 30 years with a 10-year balloon on that one. I went because after that, then most of that's going down towards the principal, but I would like to stay longer. But yes, because of that, that's how a lot of times I get the deals where they become the bank and I show them they're making more money. I
Got it.
still try to get way below market value, but again, that's where if they want short terms and they're on the fence, I show them, hey, you become the bank, you're making this. For me, I'm okay. I'm going to have to pay the bank anyways. I'm still
Right.
paying it below market rent. So as long as I'm getting my cash flow that I'm looking for, if the cash flow is not there, then it's a different story.
Got it. And that's
What's
where the challenging part comes in because depending on how much down you put, right? Pretty much.
so what's more important to them, the price or monthly payments?
Right.
Then that's what you got to figure out. What's more important? You
Got
want
it.
that purchase price? If so, then I need my payments to be at this.
Okay. Got it. And
So
what's the max
and
down
it
payment typically
Yeah,
you
and
give?
it is tough. Yeah, it's tough in Orlando. We underwrote a deal a couple weeks ago where the PITI was $700 higher than the market rent. So I understand
Yeah,
where you're
I
coming
think
from on
over
that.
here it would definitely be challenging to get that, to cash flow. with those numbers. You know, it would have to definitely be a deal to
Yep.
make that
So what I
work out.
do, yeah, on those I would do what's called a sandwich lease option on
Okay,
those.
got it. And what's
I,
the max down payment you typically offer, the max amount?
I it's low, like, what do you need the money for? You need some moving money? I'll pay the moving expenses. I try to get
Okay,
lowest down payment. Usually
got
I
it.
do like 2 to 3 months rent, whatever the monthly payments is.
Okay,
That's try
got
to,
it.
I like what the worst case is I want my money back in 12 to 18 months.
Got it. Okay,
And I try to go lowest down payment as possible. And usually
okay,
enough where I can get my capital from my end buyer to cover my down payment and put some money in my pocket and make sure I have a spread for reserves.
got it. Okay,
So
thank
if
you
I
for
think
that.
I'm going to put down $10,000, as long as I know I'm going to get 20 to $30,000 from my buyer, I'm okay giving the 10,000. So that's kind of what I look at with the market. What do I realistically think I can get from my buyer to put down?
Got it. Okay,
And
okay,
then I'll back my numbers backwards.
got it. But is it always an option to do a lease option? Do you hold any of these long term versus
Oh
doing?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yep. Oh yeah.
got it.
I usually like right now I'm trying to do with the seller, I do 5 years, but with my buyers, I'll do 4 years. So if they don't exercise, it gives me a year to kind of do a different exit strategy.
Okay, got it.
But also instead I may try to do an agreement for deed so I get the depreciation.
I understand. Okay,
Yeah. And then I'll sell it on a lease option.
got it. Okay, thank you for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Mark does have coaching. It's this. We're increasing it, aren't we? How many times a week you're going to be doing some of these calls?
Yeah, we're gonna be doing four a week. Yep.
4 a week. Well, two of you and one. So okay.
Yeah, two with me and two with a couple of the members that have been in the program for a while that understand the strategies, like one for accountability and then the other one for deal analysis and underwriting and deal structure.
And I'm working on getting Deal Machine to come in and do a private one once or twice a month as well to teach you how to use Deal Machine properly. So this is inside his mentorship program. Again, it is the schedule call to see if it's a good fit for you. It is a there's no sales in that first call. It's just to see if it's a good fit. We want to make sure that you're a good fit for the program, and if it's a good fit for you. So, all right,
Yeah.
Mark,
And
you
it's
got anything
nowhere
else?
yeah, it's nowhere near the cost of these other guys out there.
Yeah,
Nowhere near that.
for sure.
So, some of these guys, I'm just like, wow, I can't believe what they charge. And they only teach one strategy. But anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt. What's the next question?
You're good. Lisa was talking about going back to that HOA property. Are you able to buy an HOA lien before an auction?
Yes, you can. You go to the and you can get it usually buy it at a discount, especially if the HOAs that need money. Anybody that has an HOA, you don't want to pay your neighbors' bills, so that everybody wants it off the book. So a lot of times you can negotiate that with the HOA. And then you could take it in foreclosure, work something out with the seller. I've done it before.
Okay. All right. And then let's talk about how do we do sub twos with land trust?
Land trust. I do all mine. I put all my properties in land trust, even if it's not a subject to.
Okay. Why is that?
So because it helps camouflage the due on sales clause. It doesn't protect it. It doesn't immediately stop it, but it just creates it because, especially nowadays, so assignments on a subject twos or wholesaling subject twos were never a thing over the years until the last couple of years. It was always designed for us investors to come in, buy the deal, stay in the middle, and make the money. That's what blows me away. You guys are doing assignments and they're making what, $10,000, $15,000 when you can be making 150. Like we had that one member in my program, she was going to do an assignment because she all her money was tied up in a fix and flip, and this property needed $35,000, $37,000 worth of work. And so she was going to do an assignment. I'm like, okay, how much are your assignment fees? She's going to said, I'm going to ask 15,000. When it's all said and done, what are you going to get? She goes, I'll probably get $8,000 to $10,000. Well, we went through the whole deal analysis and the whole deal structure. So over 5 years, she was going to make $171,000, and she was getting $12,000 up front after the way she was structuring that deal. You sell that deal as a handyman special. Say, hey, normally I want $60,000 down, but in this case, if you're handy and you want to do the work, I'll take $15,000 down instead on that. So, anyways, that's just one way of structuring it. So, that's what really blows me away. And she's making $750 a month, and then you get that big spread in the back end. That's the key to it, is because when they pay you off in that back end in 5 years or 7 years or whatever you're having that structure, you're getting a big chunk of that, anywhere between roughly about 70,000 to about $125,000. That usually is a payoff, because whatever the as is value is, you're selling it about 10 to 12% above, because you have to weigh down the capital, so you can sell it for a little bit of a premium. Don't go crazy, but you can sell it a little bit. Like the deal that we're talking about in that lease option earlier, he said you can bump that up about $45,000 because he has to wait 5 years, and typically the appreciation is about 4% a year on a property. So if you got to use it now, if you're going to do a 3-year term, then you may not bump it up 10%. So you got to use a little judgment. But I'm not going to usually go, if I'm holding it for 10 years, I'm usually not going to go 4% 10 years. I usually will stop around 10 to 12%. I don't want to go crazy, because otherwise you could be viewed as a predatory lender slash investor. So back to the land trust. I'm sorry. So land trust, it helped camouflages it. Just be careful, because back in the day, we always used to do whatever the property was, or trust. So it'd be 123 Main Street Trust. Well, now what's happening is, because the default rates on subject twos have jumped up to 17%, the lenders are starting to call loans due, and that's one of the things that they're looking at and seeing who's making a payment. So what I like to do is just call it a certain trust, come up with a name, but and then inside the trust, you're the owner. Most states, it's all private of who's really the owner of the trust. Is usually the trust name and the trustee, but there is some states like Arizona and a couple others that you have to disclose who the beneficiary is, and the beneficiary is usually the owner of the trust, which is the owner of the property.
Sweet. Perfect.
Yep.
All right.
And a lot of times I'll buy mine when I do mine under contract, instead of my company or me, I usually will do the trust name as buying it. So it depends. It's always done differently.
Okay, awesome. Now we got a question. Do you do any joint ventures with your students?
I have. Yeah. Yep. I have years ago when I first started the program, I was doing JVs, but what was happening is, if people didn't put any monetary expense into it, um, they weren't doing anything. That's why now we charge a small monetary enrollment fee to do the program, so then they take action. But what happened was, when I first launched this doing the mentorship, I brought 20 people in, and only 3 people did anything, and everybody else wasn't doing anything. So that kind of wastes my time, but I really wanted them to take action, and because they didn't have any monetary expense into it. But yeah, I've done that, and I've done JVs with sellers before. I did a land development deal with a seller. He wanted $1.5 million for this piece of land, and I don't remember how many acres, but instead of 1.5, he ended up making 3.1 million on that deal. And what I did is I brought a builder slash developer in, and we used the land, because the land had no mortgage on it, and it was on public water. We ended up building 49 homes in there. So what we did is we used the land as a leverage, got a small loan on it. We did entitlement, and we would build 5 homes at a time. So I've done creative deals like that. So we got into that deal with no money down. Actually, we put money in our pocket for doing the management of through the whole entitlement and stuff on that too as well.
Okay, awesome. So when it comes to like a land trust, how are you structuring it?
So you usually have there's 3 components in a land trust. You have the grantor. Again, I'm not an attorney, but I'm just telling you how I do mine. So you have a grantor, the one that's really the owner of the trust. And a lot of times that would be the seller's name. Then the beneficiaries is who owns the trust, is technically ownership. So you can have your LLC if you have a partner. I have a partner, so you can have 2 LLCs, and each of them own 50% of the trust. And then also, then you have what's called a trustee. The trustee is the one that signs all the documents. They're the ones that now they can't go out there and um, take the property from you. A lot of people are afraid of that, but you as the beneficiary of the trust, you can fire the trustee at any given time. Usually what I do is, after it's been recorded, the trustee resigns, and then I become the trustee, but I don't record it, because I don't want my name on the record. Helps create anonymity. So
Awesome.
cool.
All right. Any other
And
questions?
I've always, you can sell properties too through a trust. You can sell the trust technically, instead of the asset. The asset is the real estate.
Yep. And that kind of helps with seasoning too, if you ever need to go get a loan or anything on it for other
Yeah, you
people.
just want to be careful of the state because, if you're doing it that way, you're selling the property, and some of the states may look at it as tax evasion. So we want to make sure that if you're doing it that way, you still pay the transfer taxes. The lender won't see any of that stuff, so it does help it, but just want to be cautious of that. Because I know some people, oh, I'll put it in a trust and just take the property and not have to go all through the closing costs and blah blah blah. You just want to still use it. You want to use an attorney or a title company to handle all that, but you want to pay your transfer. And the other side of it is, think of this: if you do transfer it, right, and you don't pay those transfer taxes, say that sellers own that property for 5, 7 years and that property's appreciated. When you go to sell that property, you're going to end up paying their taxes on top of it because they're going to go off of what that price was originally. So keep that in mind.
Okay.
Does that make sense? What I'm saying, say they bought that at 200,000 and it appreciated, and they're selling it to you at 400,000, and then 3 or 4 years later you're selling it at 700,000. You're going to be paying that taxes all the way at 200,000. So be cautious of that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we have Billy Smith saying, when selling to retail buyers, how do you handle the FHA 90-day title seasoning issue?
When you're selling it, if you're selling it to your end buyer, um, like on a lease option and they're doing an FHA, I've done those before. So what I do is I usually don't go FHA. I'll tell them to go conventional. And if I, like, for example, my end buyer is buying on a lease option, I will go ahead and usually they have equity in it. And I will, let's say that property I'm selling it to them for 250, I may bump it up to 260 on the contract, and then I'll pay $60,000 towards the closing costs. I'm sorry, I'll pay $10,000 to credit them, so then they're getting it at 95, so that I don't have to go through FHA. Does that make sense?
So it's like a
So
down
yeah,
payment for them.
yeah. So I'm covering, I'm covering some of the down payment and the closing costs, but what I'm doing is bumping it up $10,000 in the purchase contract to offset it, so they don't have to go with the 3% down. Because also when you do FHA, there's all these inspections. So hopefully, okay. Good job, Billy, on that one.
Yeah, that makes sense. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. Any more questions?
This was a good one. This hour went by so almost an hour. It went by quickly.
Yes, very quick. Very quick. Do you have
Wow,
anything
quite
else
a
to
few.
follow up with for Memorial Day or anything like that, Mark?
For me to follow, I'm actually leaving Wednesday. I'm going to go to Montenegro, Spain, Rafi Nadal's island. Going over there, I'll be work. The problem with over there, though, you have to start working at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon because of time zone difference. But I'm only going to that one. I probably won't work a lot. I'll be probably working on a plane heading over, and then I'll be flying back Sunday night. So we'll see. It's beautiful over there. Good food, good wine, even though I cut back on my drinking, but it's different. It's an experience. Their wines are just so good over there, and they're so, and the food, the tapas. That's where tapas came from,
Oh, is it?
because yeah, but do you understand why, right? Because the bugs. So they would put the cover on top of the drink, and that's why they're called tapas, so the bugs won't get into their alcohol.
Oh,
And they have the little foods. Enjoy your trip to Spain. Yes, I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. Hey, Liz. Liz made it on. I know she just posted something about 15 minutes before it's a Zoom on, and she jumped right in. So I'm glad she came in.
awesome. Yep,
So,
yep. She's from Madrid.
oh, love Madrid. Actually, I've been to Madrid once, and it was New Year's Eve, and it was freezing my ass. It was so cold there. I think they had a super cold. Yeah, I was there for New Year's Eve. Madrid's beautiful, by the way. It's just Italy, Madrid, Spain is just gorgeous. The
Awesome.
history.
And guys, again, if you guys want to learn more from Mark, Mark has the experience. Just schedule a call and see if it's a good fit for you. I'm not going to push it down your throat. I'm just throwing it out there. But it's a thing where you need it. I mean, you need this help because Mark can help you with the sellers. He can help you with the buyers. He can help you talk to every aspect. He can help you talk to your lawyers. He can help you talk to real estate agents. He can help you talk to the sellers. He helps you talk to everybody involved and helps you make them understand what's happening because not all of them know anything about this stuff. Right, Mark? It can be kind of confusing for them.
You have to really dumb it down. keep it simple. That's the easiest. Let me give you an example. Years ago, I was talking to the seller, and I'm like, lease option. Hey, you're okay with lease option? Blah blah blah. And she's like, well, no, I don't know. I don't think I really want to do that. We're talking and talking. She goes, well, I would be open to a rent to own. It's the same thing. So you want to really keep it simple. Don't, and a lot of times people, when they get into it, they want to start throwing these technical words out and because they want to kind of feel like they're coming across confident and that they know what they're doing. Don't do it. You're going to, if they don't understand it and you can't explain it correctly, it's going to scare them. So you want to keep it simple. Hey, hey, you know, the problem. And then when you're doing the interviewing process, they're interviewing you. So remember, it's all about relationship, getting to know each other. That is really the art of this whole thing. It's all psychological. And why are they selling? You know, like for example, I love talking using this one example, but this one gentleman was open to seller financing. He had no mortgage, but he wanted $120,000 for his home, but he wanted $30,000 down. It did not make sense putting $30,000 down, but I knew that was the issue. So I jumped on the phone. I started talking to him. I got to know, his most important thing at that moment was his dog. He had 5 children, grandchildren. He was a huge Atlanta Falcons fan. He got to know me about my football team. He banks with a credit union. He had good credit. He's retired and he lost his wife. So his name's Robert. William, I'm sorry, William. I go, William, what are you planning on doing with that capital? He goes, oh, I need $25,000 for a camper and I want some spending money. I go, camper, where are you planning on going camping? He goes, I'm going to West Virginia in the Shenandoah Mountains. Then he was going to go West Virginia on the New River, then into Virginia and Shenandoah Mountains, and then Tennessee and Ohio. So anybody here that's been camping, think of the last time you went camping. Okay. Who were you with? What kind of food did you have? What did you do? Did you go hiking? Did you go paddleboarding? Did you go golfing or swimming, depending on what it is? Who was there? Did you guys have drinks? What kind of food did you eat? Did you wake up in the morning? What was that morning like? Did you have coffee? What did you drink? So as I'm asking those questions, that was the same questions I was asking the seller. I was taking him there, visualizing what his life's going to be like. So I was bringing him there, that motion, and then where he's going, so forth. So then after I did that, asking him about that, and he's feeling, visualizing what his life was like, and same with you guys. If you kind of thought where you went camping last time, I came back to him. I go, William, I noticed you've been trying to sell this for 2 months, and you can't sell it. I goes, what seems to be the problem? He goes, oh, I need, everybody's beating me up in a down payment. Or, they didn't want to put that $30,000 down. They want a low down payment, or they beat me up in the price or whatever. And I go, how many offers you had? He goes, I don't remember. I think it was like 12 or 15 offers from investors. I go, Robert, or I think, yeah, it was Robert. He goes, William, but it went by Robert. But I go, Robert, nobody is going to put $30,000 down on a $130,000 home when they can go get an investor loan, put less down, and probably have the same type of rate. But this is what I'll do. I'll put $3,500 down because I know you need some spending money. You mentioned that you bank with a credit union. They have great rates. You go ahead and take a loan out for the camper for the $25,000, and then the 20th of every month, we'll automatically send a payment directly to the credit union on your behalf. And what we'll do is we'll go in there and create a Gmail. And in the Gmail, whenever there's a notice that goes out, it goes to my bookkeeper and it goes to you. We got that deal for $3,500 down, and I'm cash flowing $475 a month on that deal because I found out what his issue was and I solved this problem and he trusts me. So that is the art of doing these deals, is listening to the seller, why they're selling and what they plan on doing the capital. Because if you understand those two things and you can solve their problems, that's how you get low down deals. And I sold that as a lease option, and my end buyer put $18,000 down. So out of that 18, I had to give my seller $3,500. And I had some closing costs in there. So
Awesome.
anybody got any questions? This was
Yep.
good.
We got two more real quick. Liz is asking about the private group. So when you join the mentorship program, you get access to a private Facebook group, and that's going to be a place to where you can post in there and get help almost 24/7. People will be able to come in and help not only Mark, but other experienced seller financing strategy members as well. They can hop in there and give some feedback on maybe another creative angle that you might be able to take on something. So awesome. All right. Billy's asking, when buying REOs, how do we handle the no assignment clause?
Put it in an LLC or a trust and assign it, sell it.
Okay. Nice and simple.
It is.
Yep.
But do an LLC and just sell the LLC, or put it in a trust and sell the trust, either or.
All right, this is another simple one. When selling a land trust home to a conventional buyer, who will the title company make the check out to? My trustee or the beneficiary or the trust name?
Usually the beneficiary, since they're the owner, usually.
Awesome. And then we got
Yeah.
one more.
Make sure you ask the title company up front before you use them, because some title companies had the issue where they want to send it. So be very clear about that. Make sure the title company before you jump through hoops.
Awesome. All right, and one last one. Do you exit every deal within 10 years before the balloon payment?
I usually do, because I try to get out in about 7-ish years, because I want to take that capital and redeploy it into more assets. I can take that 70 to $120,000 and turn around and acquire another 10, 20 assets. Now you can, there's another whole, once you learn this stuff, and I do this, you can turn around and sell those notes also. And there's another whole market, and you can sell notes and take that money and go buy other properties. So there's another whole animal. That's another whole conversation. But I teach the front end how to do these things and how to structure these. But then once you understand it, you can turn around and sell these notes off. And there's another whole, you can structure 80-20. You can do like an 60% first, 30% second, sell the first off, use that money to go buy a new property and hold the second and get that monthly cash flow. There's another whole area of, once you understand how to do these, then you can start learning about the note structures. Cool.
Awesome. All right, guys, that's it for today. It is, we right at 8:30, perfect. Again, schedule a call with this link here, and Reese will be on the phone with you just to see if it's a good fit for you. And we want to see you succeed, so we're here to help you. Mark, thank you. Happy Memorial Day, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you guys so
Enjoy
much.
Spain.
Thank you.